A second stimulus deal is very close, confirms a major bank minutes ago. Hey, good morning, everybody. It's morning's LALATE. Happy Monday morning. Hope your week is starting off great. Smelling that toast popping out of the toaster, getting the coffee ready. Hope your week is off to a great start. I have great news with you. Thank you for joining me. Big developments minutes ago, confirming what this channel has been reporting since last Friday, that a second stimulus deal is imminent, literally around the corner, if not consummated already in principle. What are the details? Let's get right to it. Morgan Stanley, which is one of the major banks in the United States, its head minutes ago said that he sees it highly likely that a second stimulus deal will be done within days. And he thinks that basically what you're hearing now, especially what I talked about on Sunday morning, that Sunday morning chatter, is just a lot of chatter. Really great news. That was followed up by commentary by Jim Cramer on CNBC minutes ago that said, I don't really see this belaboring much longer. We're going to see a deal, and it's going to be very quick and very short within a number of days. So I don't see this really going on much longer. And he also praised the head of Morgan Stanley for basically usually getting it right. If you don't know, or you're new to this channel, on Friday, I detailed that a second stimulus deal is imminent. Several reports on Friday indicated that the check itself, which is part of the deal, and I'll be getting into that shortly, has been agreed upon. Other things have been agreed upon, like rent eviction moratoriums. Most of the FPUC has been agreed upon, and that what's outstanding are these provisions that a lot of people just don't think belong. Chuck Schumer on Sunday morning ostensibly confirmed our reporting, who said that there was great progress in a late, prolonged Saturday afternoon negotiation between him, Nancy Pelosi, and Mitch McConnell, and the head of the chief of staff of Donald Trump's White House, Mark Meadows, and he said a lot was done, but there's some stuff that still needs to be resolved. So what is that stuff? Where are we going? And what should you expect this week? Let's go over the detail. This video is going to cover everything you need to know about where we are Monday morning on the second stimulus package. First, the check. Most reporting has now indicated that there's a deal on the check. The check will be a single check. It will be $1,200. It will mirror what the Democrats propose in the HEROES Act. $1,200 for non-dependents, $1,200 for dependents. $1,200 for minor dependents and adult dependents. So this is different again than the CARES Act, which did not pay a stimulus check to anyone 18 years or older. Really great news. Everyone will be getting a $1,200 check. The check would likely arrive in mid-August. How will it arrive? Well, I detailed that on Saturday evening's video. A lot of you love that because I basically explained to you that if you're on SSDI, SSI, Social Security, or Railroad benefits, or Veterans benefits, it will likely come the manner in which you currently receive your benefits. The only thing that I really don't know, because IRS has not made it clear, is if you are on benefits, but you're also a dependent on someone else's tax return, will it go to that person or will it come to you? We're really not clear about that. I also detailed in that video the issue of non-filer filing, and basically, without going into a lot of detail right now, if you have a child and you're on dependents and don't file tax returns, get that non-filer on file. Okay. Sunday evening, I detail for you the issue of child support, and a lot of people thank me for that video. The issue of child support is really still not clear because the Democrats' bill says they can't take out for child support, and the Republicans' bill says they can take out for child support. This is different than the first stimulus package, which could take out for child support. So ultimately, if the bill is passed exactly like the HEROES Act, then they can't cannot take out for child support. Next, the issue of hazard pay, which a lot of you have been asking. I said over on Sunday yesterday that I promise to repeat a video I did about 2 weeks ago. I did it a couple times, in which I go through the bill and I explain to you who are essential workers under the bill and how you get hazard pay. The hazard pay is still on the table, and it's likely to get approved because there's been no opposition from the other side. As we start this Monday morning, we're all around the water cooler or sitting around home and we're debating what's going on in this stimulus package. What do you think should have happened? What do you think should have happened in those negotiations? First, with the check. I certainly agree with what you've been saying. I don't think this one check is a real great approach because ultimately it's going to cause everyone to have to come back and meet again, members of Congress, in a few weeks to get that next check out. There will be another check if this pandemic goes into January, February. There will be another check. Steve Mnuchin has said there will be likely another check. So why not just get it done now? This continual waiting and belaboring the point is not very good. I also don't think $1,200 is enough. It should have been $2,000. But here's also my opinion. I'd love to hear your opinion. Drop in the comments below. A lot of viewers were fascinated when I told you on Saturday and Sunday, hey, if you have a 2-year-old child or a 6-month-old child that's just born, that child qualifies for a stimulus check. My opinion is that a child that's under like age 5 should not be getting the same amount of a stimulus check as someone who's 30 years old and is working or trying to work all the time. Potentially one should get more money and one should get less money. I also don't think $1,200 is enough, and I don't think a single check is enough. But what do you think? I'd love to hear your comments. Drop them in the comments below. As to hazard pay, I also have an opinion about that. First, your opinions, I've seen them, and that I certainly agree with, which is there's a problem with the hazard pay bill. The problem with the hazard pay bill is it says that the employer applies for the hazard pay, not you. It also says that the employer does not have to apply for hazard pay, and if they don't, you have no recourse. So you have not been happy with it. I've not been happy with it. But really, here's the other good news. There's that other bill about hazard pay, the Mitt Romney plan, which if I had my way, would merge the two bills together. Because the Mitt Romney plan calls for the employer to be required to apply for hazard pay and says that the employer will be paid by the federal government to do the whole bookkeeping to get a hazard pay. Next, there's an additional issue which a lot of people don't talk about with hazard pay, which I think is a key issue going forward, is what happens if you've worked the pandemic as an essential worker and you've been working since January. You qualify for the hazard pay, you get the $10,000. Now going forward, what about your work going forward? Under the hazard pay bill, you don't get anything if you're already at the threshold of $10,000. You don't get anything going forward. Is that really good economics? Does that make sense? Is that good, a good approach to the situation? I think going forward, if you're still working in a essential workplace, you should still get paid hazard pay. Ostensibly, if we sit here now in August, you could be working in a essential workers hazard pay environment all the way to February under this pandemic. And if you already got to the $10,000 on a hazard pay, you wouldn't get hazard pay going forward at all because you've exhausted it. Is that correct? Drop your comments below. I don't think it is. I think you should be getting more money. Next, FPUC. Likely agreement on FPUC, and this was always the chatter of broadcast news over the weekend. It was the chatter of CNBC minutes ago. Jim Cramer said, I don't see this going on much longer, this bickering about FPUC. No one will, and Cramer slammed the $200, and then he said, well, just come up with more money, Republicans. If had you done $400 or $500 a week, no one would be sitting here and bickering. It's that you came up with $200. Hello, does that sound familiar? That's exactly what I said over a week ago, right before the Republican plan was debuted. I said if the Republicans come in at $100, $200, or anything under $300, everyone is going to just tar and feather the proposal. That if they come in at $400, people might back them. And if they come in at $300, it's sort of a wait-and-see game. Well, they came in at $200, and it just became a hot mess. As you know, no one is supporting $200. I've just done video after video about that. The swing states, the Republican dominated states, the Rust Belt states, no one's supporting $200. When questioned by polls over the last week, they support $600. So where will this land? Well, the reporting since Friday says it's going to land at $600. What's ironic of the situation is that Mnuchin and and Mark Meadows have allegedly offered $600. They've offered $600 for just 1 week, which really doesn't look good for purposes of negotiating. It's you're saying, hey, we have a problem. I'll give you $600 a week, but then after that, I don't want to fix your problem. I want to revert back to something cheaper. It just doesn't work that way. So most people think it's going to be $600 a week all the way into January 2021. What do you think? My opinion is very clear. It should be $600 a week. The $200 a week is bogus. And here's where I just don't understand the authors of this $200 are coming from. And I'll be very quick to it. Is that if you are offered a job, if you are on unemployment and your employer says, hey, we're back open. The lockdown has been lifted. We're back open. I have your job ready. Come on back home. Come on back to work. And the employee says, no, I'm staying at home. I don't feel like coming back to work. Sorry, boss. Well, guess what? Under employment systems, the unemployment agency, which administers the $600 from the federal government, can stop your employment benefits if you are offered a job and you refuse to work. So for Mnuchin to make this argument that people are staying at home and not going back at work means that ultimately he doesn't understand the employment systems, or he means the employment systems are not working on a state level. If they're not working on a state level, give the state employment departments more money to administer systems to people who are offered jobs and don't go back to work. It's as simple as that. Ultimately, I don't think Mnuchin's argument is true. I don't think that people have jobs and are staying at home and not going back to work. There are people who don't have jobs that are at home and potentially are getting more than when they were employed, but that's not what I'm talking about. If you have people who are staying at home and are offered jobs, by law, then they don't qualify for the $600 per week. And if they're getting it, don't blame the rest of us, Mr. Mnuchin. Fix the employment computer systems. Ultimately, that's a problem of a state level. It's not the federal government's job to be involved with that. Next, rent eviction moratorium. Really great news about that. The president has supported it. The Democrats, of course, support it. And it's an immediate urgency. Jim Cramer talked about that minutes ago on CNBC as well. He said it's sort of like how I've been saying it, which is sort of like this, what? It's like, how can you not pass eviction moratorium? That was sort of his facial reaction when he talked about it, even though he's an animated person. He's like, what are you talking about? I mean, we got to get eviction moratorium. I can't see half of the American population being homeless next week. I just don't understand what's going on. That was his remarks, which is like, verbatim of what I've been saying on this channel. But then he also said, you don't do that, then it becomes a very bad situation very quickly. You have people on the street, you have homeless, and then you have banks taking up all these properties in foreclosure, and banks don't want these properties. He said the banks are going to go belly up. Hello. I mean, that's what I've been saying for weeks. Steve Mnuchin, who has an economic background, Larry Kudlow, who used to be on CNBC, Mark Meadows, who, is not stupid. All these people understand you can't have foreclosures. You can't have banks picking up properties and foreclosures all over the country, because what happens? The banks collapse. The banks collapse and the entire economy goes into complete meltdown. You can't do that. So this whole thing that we're sort of like not doing a deal, and Sunday morning Nancy is this and Chuck is that, and Nancy's slamming back at Steve and Mark. I mean, it's okay. I got it. I told you on Friday, just ignore all that crapola, as I would call it. That's what Cramer said. He's like, I don't see this going on much longer. Of course there's going to be an eviction moratorium. You can't have this going on. It doesn't make logical sense, and it doesn't. The president last Friday and Thursday really came out in favor of eviction moratoriums. He said it the week before. It did not appear in the bill, and ultimately, as you heard from my videos over the weekend, which was sort of like describing a backstory of Real Housewives more than a stimulus bill, was that the president wanted stuff in the bill. He didn't write it. Mitch McConnell wrote it. Mitch McConnell introduced it to the Senate. Steve Mnuchin is not in the Senate. The president is not in the Senate. Only Mitch McConnell is. He introduced a bill that did not coincide with the wishes of this president. It did not coincide with the wishes of 99% of the American public. It coincided with the wishes of a very out of touch, beyond his tenure senator from Kentucky who is likely not to be reelected this fall, nor retain his position as majority leader. And so he introduced a bill that left out a lot of stuff, put a lot of crap in there that doesn't belong in there. And ultimately everyone's like, what's going on with this crazy bill? So what is your opinion about eviction moratoriums? Do you think people should be homeless? No, of course not. Most people think that eviction moratorium will be passed. And what I want you to understand is, and this is where my opinion rests as to eviction moratorium, this is more specifics. And I know you love when I go into specifics. I would prefer that the eviction moratorium bill said effective immediately, all the evictions are terminated, rather than halted. There's a real difference at what's at issue here. Do we terminate them and stop and annihilate them, make them moot, make them no longer to proceed, or do we say put on hold? I particularly don't like the idea of putting things on hold. You have 40-something million evictions proceedings pending. So this is people who are about to be evicted. These are people who have now been served with eviction notices. I just don't like the idea of 40 million lawsuits just still pending and sitting around till next year, because it just doesn't make sense. The evictions should be eradicated. We should go back to a clean slate, which is where we should have been in the first place. No eviction proceeding should be on the books for anything while COVID is going on, and that once COVID-19 is over, then eviction proceedings may start, but not resume. I don't like the idea of resuming. I don't like things being put on hold and then resuming. They should start at that point. Ultimately, there's that other junk in the stimulus package that doesn't belong there. And what's going to happen with that? Well, that was also the talk this morning. Jim Cramer ostensibly said everything I've been saying, which is the payroll tax, which some people wanted, but a lot of Republicans didn't want. That's not going to get in there. The federal building doesn't look like that's going to get in there. I mean, that's really the big joke of the moment. This $3 billion federal building in a stimulus package, not going to get in there. Mitch McConnell's liability insurance bill, I just don't know if it's going to get in there. I think that's what is clearly not allowing the deal to be finished, is that provision, which is a ridiculous provision. Now, ultimately, if Mitch is willing to revise the provision, then maybe it will get in there. The way it's written out, it's just insane. It basically says you cannot sue an employer if you get COVID-19 on the workplace unless the employer intentionally gave you COVID-19, which is sort of ridiculous. I understand maybe what his sentiment is that a lot of people are asymptomatic, so you don't know if you have COVID-19, and so people may transmit it at work, and you don't want to be set up for liability. I understand that position. But on the other side, I don't think it should be this sort of, intentional act. There's a wide spectrum of where that can land, and I don't think that's where we are now. Bottom line is, it's Monday morning. Coming up later today, I will deliver to you what I promised, a very comprehensive analysis of the hazard pay bill, who are the essential workers and who aren't. I'll be going through the entire hazard pay bill itself. That will be at 4 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. As you remember, our afternoons LALATE is a 2-hour programming block every day that starts at 3:30 Pacific Standard Time. 4 videos, 1 video every half hour. It starts with a check at 3:30, hazard pay at 4 o'clock, FPUC at 4:30, and finally at 5 o'clock, rent assistance. Finally, evenings LALATE, which was a big hit last night. I enjoyed doing it with you. It was a lot of fun. Sorry about the Easter Bunny news to everyone. That starts with the check. And last night, and especially the check and questions, and last night I went over other questions for you, and I enjoyed it, and apparently you enjoyed it as well. And finally, EIDL loans. Stay motivated, stay focused. Have a great Monday morning. I mean, it's going to be a great week. I feel it, and I hope you feel it too. Stay with me, like and subscribe. Thank you for bringing us to 130,000 subscribers overnight. Let's see if we can get to 150,000 subscribers, about 20,000 more by this Sunday. Let's see if we can do it. Have a great Monday morning, and I'll see you at 3:30 Pacific Standard Time. Take care.